Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Spiritual Sisters podcast. I'm Nicole Christine.
I'm Gabrielle Celeste.
Gabby, who do we have with us today? We
I'm
have
so
a beautiful blonde, beautiful.
Sure. I'll take it.
We have a beautiful woman with
dirty
us.
blonde.
Oh,
dirty
who's
blonde.
this beautiful, dirty blonde with us?
I am Ashley Sullivan, a friend of Gabby's from Soul Teacher, Nikki's spiritual intuition program. Here to hang out with you guys today.
Hi, Ashley. Welcome. Thanks for being with
you.
us.
We officially have a new name for it. We call it Psychic School Intuition Academy.
Intuition Academy.
Intuition Program.
Love it. Intuition Academy.
Yes, that's Nicole's branding.
I know. I
Perfect.
kind of want to brand that and start a business about intuition, but I need to figure out my own first. So
and trademark it.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
No, not
You're
yet.
on the path.
Ashley, we're so excited to have you. Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
So we are introducing some of our favorite readers because at this point, I think it's safe to announce just because we want to, give you guys an idea of the reason that we have some of our favorite readers coming on. Oh, wait, no, Nicole's giving me the no. So never mind. It's a surprise. Okay, so we have Ashley on today, and Ashley, you and I, like you said, met in Intuition Academy through Nikki Novo's Soul Teacher, now known as the Soul Reading Method program, and I received one of the most beautiful readings from you, and it was an Akashic Records reading, and I personally believe you are the best Akashic Records reader out there, at least the ones that I know amongst our group and our friends, our psychic friends. And
you better hope they're not listening.
They know. They know what's up. And they know, you know what? They've had readings from you, so they know as well too. So I just wanted to allow you the moment to present yourself and to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this work and your connection with the Akashic Records and all the things.
Well, before we do that, I was wondering, so I just wanted to introduce that we're going to be talking about the Akashic Records today. And this was something that's been on our list of topics. So we thought, perfect, we'll have somebody who is very well versed in it, kind of introduce it and talk a little bit about it. So Ashley, speaking of branding, what if you go by Akashic Ashley?
Ooh, I like it.
I don't know if you have a name yet, but I was like,
I don't. I'm just using my own.
We love alliteration around here, so
I love
double
it. I love
A's,
it.
the Akashic Ashley. So maybe think about it. See if it's been taken or not. If not, maybe think about
Get on the
trademarking it.
handle.
I'm gonna file that one. I like that. I used to be an elementary school teacher, so I love all the fun little alliterations or themes or things like that. So
that's how we got our name.
Yeah.
So Akashic Records. Yeah. So Akashic Records. So go ahead and like Gabby said, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here, and then tell us about the Akashic Records, because I'm still really not. I feel like I have an idea of what they are, but because I'm not very well versed, I want to hear from the expert.
Sure. Well, it's so funny that you call me an expert, because as I share my story, this will come out a little bit. But so I thinking about my spiritual path. When I look back at when I was little, I definitely grew up very spiritually curious, but my family was not spiritual. We didn't attend church or any other religious expression or spiritual expression of anything. I did grow up in the South. I live in North Carolina, and there are churches on every corner. So when I was younger, I didn't really know there was any other way to express yourself spiritually other than through the Christian church. So I was just very interested in all things witchy. I loved books about witches, spells. I loved Harry Potter. I know a lot of people love Harry Potter, but I really loved Harry Potter.
I've still never seen them.
Oh, no, read them. Read them first.
Yeah, I haven't read or seen them, and I know I would like it. I think it's just the books are very dense and they're very big, and they scare me because they're so big. It's such a commitment, and that's why I haven't done it.
Maybe it'll be good for you on this path, though. As you're opening your path, you can become a witch right alongside all of the witches and wizards in Harry Potter.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, all to say, like, I didn't grow up in like a psychic family or anything like that. Like, this was never anything I learned about growing up, but I was always just so spiritually curious. And so I did spend a lot of time in the Christian church growing up into my youth, into like college. That's kind of where I explored spirituality, but I always found it kind of lacking. Like, I always felt like some of the doctrines I definitely didn't agree with. I always had curiosity about more. And so as I got into my 20s, I started going to a more progressive church that kind of allowed like more outside thinking. And I just started like broadening my horizons. And I feel like the psychic, the metaphysical, like all of that really started calling to me. And like resonating with me in a way that the Christian doctrine never really fully had. There were some things about it I loved, but some things that I was like, that just doesn't hit for me, you know? So as I opened myself more, I started to find other things that I resonated with more. So around the same time, like in my early mid 20s, I started, I've been a lifelong journaler. Like, I had a diary when I was like 6. I've been journaling forever. But something compelled me in my 20s to start doing more of like a dialogue type journaling. So instead of just like writing down details about my day, I started sort of asking questions in my journal, like, what should I do about this job that I think I might want, or something like that. I would ask a question and then I would just kind of like free flow my response. And I got into this habit where I would almost like sort of go into a trance phase a little bit. I mean, I was still very conscious and aware of where I was and who I was, but it was like I would just start writing and things would just start coming. Um, and then I would read back later and I would be like, wow, that sounds like me, but it also doesn't sound like me, right? Like, it sounds like a higher version of me, a wiser version of me, something like that. So I called it like dialoguing with God. If you've ever heard of the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, I think, it's kind of like that, just like this back and forth dialogue. And what I was doing was channeling, and I didn't know it. I didn't know to call it that. I didn't even know what that was, but I was just kind of channeling spirit, or I think like my higher self probably, and gaining wisdom and insight into like my daily questions and my daily path. So, um, you know, as I grew, I was reading a lot. I was like reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of podcasts. I came across Nikki Novo. I loved her podcast. And then I realized like the thing that I was missing was that I wasn't practicing anything with other people. Like, I wasn't really communicating with other people. I don't really have a lot of real life friends that are super into this stuff. I have some friends that are really open and like hearing about it, but they're not like practicing. They're not doing this themselves. So I really wanted to seek out some community in it and like try out some of my gifts, you know, see what I had to offer and kind of learn about how to hone them and how to access them a bit more. So I joined Nikki's program. And that was August of last year, Gabby? Is that when we started? Yeah, August of 2022. So yeah, I think Nikki's program just like really opened my world to what it looked like to actually practice some of this stuff and to do readings with other people, because basically I was reading myself. Like, I was kind of reading my own, yeah, like my own soul, but I had never tried to do this for anybody else before. And so her program really opened that. So all that to say, excuse me, back to the Akashic Records question. There were several topics that we covered in Nikki's course. And I did get a Reiki certification in 2018 that I hadn't really used very much because I got pregnant shortly after and then got pregnant again and just haven't had a chance to use it. But when I did my Reiki certification, I learned all about chakras, chakra scanning, reading energy via the chakra system, but I never really practiced it with anybody. And I thought that when I did Nikki's program, that's what I was really going to be drawn to and what I was really going to like want to further and actually like offer as a reading. But and I did enjoy that part of the course and I did learn more and enjoy practicing it. But when we got to the Akashic Records, that was where I really felt like I clicked. So the Akashic Records, the way that Nikki taught us and the way that I understand it, is it's just like a higher dimension of consciousness or energy or God, or, however you see the higher like source energy, that contains all the information ever. Like, we all come from source. It's all there. It's past, present, future, all of our souls' journeys, all of our contracts, all of our past lives, all of our potential futures. And if you can access that space, you can gain information about a soul's purpose, about like contracts that they have in this lifetime, about things that have happened in past lives that they may still be carrying into this life that might be affecting this life. So really just like any information you can imagine or want, this would be the place where you would go to access. And the way that I do it is I enter the records, which to me looks like this old kind of Grecian like building. You get a key to somebody's room, and then you enter their room and you can ask for certain books about them. You can talk to people, to spirit guides or guides on their council, or I just kind of allow whatever I walk into to happen and see what comes up, with intention, set based on what the person's looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's just something that really clicked for me. And there were other parts of the program that didn't click for me, like that I was like, I just don't feel resonant with that. That doesn't seem like my gift, my calling. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about my journey here and reading the records and learning about them. But it's just basically a space where you can gain information from past, present, future about any soul who wishes to know those things.
I have so many questions about, well, not just necessarily the Akashic Records, but just for you. So question 1. What is your idea of like your higher self? Because we've had this conversation before about what the highest self is. Is it the highest or the higher? But whatever it is, like how do you come across, like what does your higher self look like to you? Because what I thought it was, Gabby said it wasn't.
So that's a great question, because I don't think I have like the exact answer, but for me, like there's a certain energy that I can tell when I'm connecting with my higher self. And I know it because it feels like me, like energetically, like the signature feels like me, but it feels so much like wiser, calmer. Yeah, just like there's like this presence in it that is just has so much more wisdom than like my human self seems to have. In terms of like, what is it? I, I don't know. Like I think we all come from source and like one point, and I guess the higher self is just like that part of my soul that is not here in this dimension, like living this narrative, this in this play like that we're in right now. And so she has this like higher perspective of everything, whereas I have like this limited human perspective, but we're connected somehow. So it's almost like part of me is here and part of me is I'm doing this like there, out there, putting my hand up, like wherever there is. But we're connected somehow. I don't know. Gabby, enlighten us.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you just described it so well. I love how you phrased it as this life on earth being like a play, because sometimes it feels like that, where it's like, oh no, like we're living in the illusion and there really is life beyond this, and like we are existing in different dimensions, and that is who our higher selves are. Nicole, what's your relationship or understanding with respect to what we just said?
Well, so I think when I was doing maybe one of the meditations for Nikki, that she was saying that the higher self is basically like the best version of yourself. So to me, the highest self is like the hottest, most like yeah, just best version, right? Like the best hair, the best skin, the best everything, the most enlightened, and just the most wisdom that we would have. So just like us times 100 better. But then Gabby said no. She told me no once. So then I was like, well, then what is it? Like I don't know.
Do you think it's like literally your soul? Because I think it's the soul.
No, it's like the soul, but like the best version of it, right? Like the best looking, the best thinking, the best like that you could be, period.
I feel like that's a little bit of like the ego's understanding.
I feel like Nikki said this, so
Did
That's
she? I need to go
why,
back and look at those
yeah,
videos
that's why I was like, why are you telling me no? And like, I feel like this came straight from
from the
like our
boss.
Queen Mother. Yeah.
Queen Mother. Queen Mother. I love that.
Queen
Yeah.
Mother. Queen Bee.
Yeah.
I feel like when I think about it, it's almost like like to go back to the play metaphor or whatever. It's almost like I'm the director, like my higher self is the director, and I am also in the play. Like I'm the person in this play who's like reading my lines, being like, "What's going on next?" And the director is like, "I wrote the play. I know the whole thing from start to finish. I know what you're supposed to be doing." So it's like I'm checking in with that part of myself that's like kind of overlooking all of this. Like, okay, like, don't go that way. Go that way. You're supposed to be over there, like over there. No, that's not your line right now. Like your line is this, you know, like it's almost just like checking in with that part of myself that's like above it all. I don't know if that makes sense, but somehow we're the same person.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I love that.
My other question is, so you mentioned you were trained in Reiki, and I don't know a whole lot about Reiki. So can you tell us about what, I know there's different levels. Like I think there's like level 1, 2,
right. Yeah.
And then there's so many different kinds that you can even be trained in. So tell us about yours.
So I'm just a level 1 practitioner, and to be honest, like this was like 5 years ago now, so I can't even remember the exact style. I know there's different styles, like Usai or something. I'd have to look it up, but essentially Reiki energy is like a life force energy that you can be attuned to, and then you can use that energy like to help heal others and to like tune into others. That was kind of the way I understood it. So when I first started my training, my Reiki master like did a whole attunement process to help me like attune to this special energy, this Reiki energy. And then from there, I was able to use that energy to like work with the chakra system to like clear negative energy or stagnant energy. I don't really like fully know if when I was trained in it, I didn't use it to like see what was going on in a person's chakra the way that I did when we were in Nikki's course. But I know they're connected, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You
said
you're attuned, right, Gabby?
Yeah, I'm attuned in shamanic Reiki. And it, you know what, I think there's a bigger calling with respect to me working with it, and it's not at this time, but it's definitely coming. But what I've noticed is like you definitely, once you are attuned, feel it in your system, because you and I had spoken about this. After I got attuned for Reiki 1, I only have Reiki 1. I literally had like the worst period of my life.
Same.
And it was wild. I have to believe it was like energy leaving the body in some capacity, and you literally going through like a physical upgrade. And that was actually right after we finished our program together. So it was like twofold how bad it was, because I actually at the same time ended up having hives. So integration is totally real when you go through these up levels and these programs and like just different stages of involvement.
Yeah, I remember us voice noting about that because I had the same experience after I got attuned. I had like the worst period of my life. And I remember being like, okay, something just happened. Like, don't know what's going on, but.
Right. Nicole, are you ready for your integration?
I feel like there's just a lot of things I'm not ready for, but I don't have any control, so it's just going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, Ashley, do you know any of your past lives in the records? I'm curious. If you're comfortable sharing, of course.
I do. Yeah. So I've done several past life regressions like on myself, kind of like I've gone through that. I think one of the most crazy ones, it would take me a long time to tell the story, but I'll try to like shorten it, was a recent life where I was a healer, and it was like I was born into my gifts very clearly. It was kind of an opposite situation of me now. Like I was born into it very clearly. I knew I had these gifts. I had a mentor from a young age, a woman in the village. Like it was very clear that I was the next, like it wasn't like medicine woman, but it was like I was a healer, like a witch doctor, I guess. I don't know. But I was very confident in my gifts in that life. Like I felt very grounded in my gifts. And then tragically, when I was in my training with her, she was out one day and I was in her like space, and a family came with their little boy. Something was wrong with him and they were like panicking, and they brought him in and they were like, save him. And it was all chaos, and I froze and I wasn't able to save him. And so he died. And I like completely just froze up, and I was like, no, like my teacher needs to do this. Like I can't do this. And she was gone, and he died before she got back. And I like never used my gifts again after that. Like I completely shut down. I never got over it. Like, and she had told me so many times, like, I couldn't have saved him. Like there was nothing, like this was his path. This was, I know it's really tragic, but like this was not because you didn't have strong enough gifts or you didn't show up. But I never was able to like hear that. And so I shut down my gifts. And actually it was funny because I had asked to see a life where I'm still feeling like very insecure about my gifts. Even now I'm like, I don't know. Like, do I really have these gifts? Do I really want to use them? I don't know. Like I still go through this, and I had asked to see a life that would have contributed to this like hesitancy in me in this life. And that was like this super clear, it was like a very super clear past life that I saw. And I could feel the grief. Like when I was doing it, I could feel my own grief about this little boy passing. And like, so, I mean, even that was like really helpful and healing for me, because I was like, okay, so there's like a root to this hesitancy for me. You know, there's a root to this feeling of like, I don't know if I really want to do this, you know? So yeah, that's one past life. I've seen others, but that was probably one of the more like impactful ones.
Yeah.
Is there a way when you go into the records to have an idea of how many past lives somebody has had?
Probably. I mean, with Gabby, I knew she'd had so many. Like, I generally don't get like a number. Like, I don't walk in and they're like 652 past lives. Like, more, I'll just get a sense of like, this is a really old soul, or like, this is a, older soul, but not super old. Like Gabby, I remember specifically being like, oh, she has like, this is an old soul. Like, very clear. I remember that from the very beginning. But I don't feel like I've ever had I don't actually think I've ever encountered like a really young soul. Like I've never had one yet where it's like, this is a brand new soul. And I've never heard like a number for anybody. So
that's Gabby is such an old soul that when she was like 6, 7, 8,
I know what you're going to say.
She used to wake up super early with our mom, like, 5 a.m. and she was in like elementary school. She'd wake up early, she'd shower, she'd go to the living room, she would turn on the news.
Oh my gosh.
And she would lay on the couch before school, and she would kind of lay there watching and fall asleep. And she was like, little, like 7, 8. She did that till what, probably high school?
The couch.
The couch got so fucked up. There was like an indentation in the couch from her little butt because it was where she went every morning. But I'm like, who the fuck wakes up at like 5 a.m. to shower and goes and turns on the news in elementary school?
Oh yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, actually, that's kind of, it's triggering a question in me for me to ask about, so when you read my records, which was literally one of my favorite readings, you said that there's certain things and experiences, and you have your own process too, where you go in and like, there's certain indications of like how you're going to receive information. But for you, when you're going in and you're reading someone, like what are your not in the general meaning, but like what are your triggers, and like what do you know is going to give you information for the person that you're reading for? Because I know like, their guides, cancels, keys, their rooms, like what is your process? Because everyone's so different when they read.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll say this before I give you answers. Something I've had to work on a lot is, Nicole, I'm much like you. I'm very analytical. I'm very judgmental, not like judgy, like I'm judging you, but judgmental
so judgy.
I'm a very judgmental person.
No, I am.
Well,
Come sit next to me. We'll judge people together.
In this context, I mean, like I'm judging everything that I'm receiving as I'm receiving it. So I've had to work really hard to like try to step away from that and shut it down. And, because I do get a lot more information that way. So some of the ways that I definitely will get information every time, the key. So I always get a key from the librarian, and almost every time, like there'll be something significant on the key. And then also I'll always ask the librarian, is there anything you want to tell me about this person before I go? And sometimes she'll say, no, go ahead, like you're gonna see it all there. And sometimes she will say, like, yeah, I want, she'll tell me something that ends up being related to whatever I end up seeing. And then sometimes, again, sometimes not, the door sometimes gives me some information. Other times it's like, nope, just go on in, nothing here to see. But when I enter, once I'm in the room, I would say like at least half the time I walk into some scene. Like it's not like I'm walking into a room. It's like with you, Gabby, I remember I walked into a scene like of this like this forest, the whole forest scene with the castle and the like that was what I walked into. So sometimes I walk into like a past life scene. Sometimes I walk into just like almost like a metaphorical type scene. And then the other half of the time I walk in and it's some kind of like library looking room, which normally when I walk into the room, there's not usually much about the room that ends up being super important. And then the other ways that I get information while once I'm in the room are talking to council people. So sometimes people's guides and members of their council are like, I really want you to know who I am. This is why I'm important. Other times they don't. They're like, here, I'm just here to give you a book. Like, it's not important for you to talk to me. And then books are the other way. So I'll ask for certain books, or they will say, I'm going to bring you this book. So yeah, like the key, the librarian, the door, the way that I enter in, whatever I see when I enter in, council members, spirit guides, and books are the ways that I usually, but I really have to I really have to shut down that judgmental part of my brain. Like it's the hardest thing for me. And I know that I'll get better at it with time, but every single time I go into it, I'm like, oh, I hope I get something today. And like, I hope I have to really shut that part down and be like, I'm here to receive like whatever I get. I can't judge it or be like, that's weird. That doesn't make sense. That person's going to be like, that's nothing to me. Like I have to just go into that mode of like, I'm going to write down whatever I get. And like, I'm just going to commit to like being the channel and not trying to like manipulate this process,
Yeah. And well, not, and to validate you, not that you need the validation, but you were actually, so there was a couple of the readers in our cohort that saw a witch in my records, but you actually identified who the witch was. Like it was like that final catalyst for me to figure out like my guide, and that's actually Morgan Le Fay. And you said that there was like never, like you'll never forget.
I will never forget. Yeah. When I saw her, I was like, wow, this is like, okay. And it was funny because you sent me a picture of her, which I'm sure there's tons of different renderings of her and like, people do their own art interpretations. But when whatever the one you sent me, I was like, that's it. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Which was so cool. Like that was very confirming for me because I was like, that's wild. Because I think if I remember correctly, I think I got like an M, but I didn't get the name. Yeah. And then you were like, I think I might have found something. And I was like, oh my gosh, for sure. Yeah.
So cool. So, and I'll pass it on to Nicole. I just have so many questions because I'm so intrigued by your process and just your relationship with the records. And I also have your birth chart. So I know your relationship to the records from your previous lifetimes and whatnot, and how you're supposed to apply it in this lifetime. And it's going to be big, guys, in the best way. But I just wanted to know, have you, for the sitters that you've had, have you noticed like a trend, or have you observed how a records reading has been helpful for them? Because I know for me it was super significant.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think I've done a reading where anyone was like, none of that made sense. Normally there are at least several elements that they're like, okay, that I'm connecting to that makes sense. I do think like my readings tend to be a bit more like metaphorical in ways. Like it's more like narrative and metaphorical than like here's direct information. So honestly, I wonder whether like people just have to sit with them for a while. I don't know if like their direct feedback actually even would be like the most I don't know. I think it's readings that people need to like sit with and be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how is this like metaphor really playing out for me, or this piece of information? Um, I haven't seen like a pattern though, like any kind of pattern, I don't
Yeah.
think.
I just remember after you had read my records, and even recently at the beginning of the year, when you went in and you identified another one of my counsels who I didn't know of, and I was like, oh, and it was super emotional. It was like a very heightened time. But anyways, I just remember listening to your voice note and just being like, what the fuck? And in the best way, like, this makes so much sense. And it's like, how would like three people in our cohort that haven't talked about it, and it literally happened, like, one was in the first month, the second month, and the third month, and like I know that there was no discussion about it. So when you had expressed that information about who was one of my guides and like what I'm here to do, I was like, okay, like, yeah, like, Gabby, you need to start believing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's very impactful, guys.
I always set the intention, which is not like, this isn't like some radical intention, but I always do set the intention and like really, really feel into like whatever they are ready to receive for their highest good, like whatever they need to know. Like that's always my intention. And so I just know, I just believe once I set that, like I don't know what I'm going to see. I might see the weirdest thing ever, and like even they might not realize what it means when I first deliver it, but I really believe that whatever I receive in some way, like that person is ready to receive.
Mm-hmm.
It's for their highest good, and it's something that they need like on their journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just
I'm
try to
seeing
let that
Nicole.
be.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Yeah.
seeing Nicole just like process everything you're saying, like, yep, 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 because I feel like there's a lot that like you two share in common in the sense of like removing that judgment and processing this
Mm-hmm.
information and making sense of it. And we're on video, guys, but I am literally seeing my sister process this information in like the best of ways.
It's just a lot to take in.
So,
Yeah, it's just because I'm not there yet as far as we haven't learned it. So I know a little bit about it. And as you were talking about it and what it looks like for you, I was thinking about the first time I did a meditation, one of Nikki's meditations, and I had a journey to the upper world.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, okay, and then you're going to be walking, and then the Akashic Records library is going to be to like the right of you or the left of you, whatever it was. And so I hadn't gone in, but I was just journeying. And then I was driving in a nearby town one day, and I was on the phone with Gabby,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh my God. And she's like, what? I said, I just like, I'm getting like chills as I say it. I just drove by what I envisioned the Akashic Records to look like when I did my meditation. And it was actually a library in this town. And so I'm sure at some
whoa.
point I had seen it. I'm sure at some point, because we've had lunch in that town and whatnot, but I've never been to the library and I've never paid attention, and I don't think I knew that that was the library. But I said, "Oh my
Right.
gosh, this is the library." And this was the Akashic Records library. So I wonder for you, for either of you, however you envision it, like, have you ever seen a photo of something that kind of accurately represents what it looks like to you?
I'll let you go first, Ashley.
I mean, I can only say like ancient Greece. Like I've never
Mm-hmm.
been to like Athens or, anywhere. That's just what comes to mind for me. It looks like some kind of ancient Grecian. There's like a staircase for me, and then huge pillars, like an open air kind of concept. Like that would be the only thing, that I can't pinpoint like a specific picture or anything. It just feels that kind of
Have,
like that vibe.
have you ever done any like genealogy to see if you have any of that
Mm.
ancestrally?
I've done like what's it called, like 23andMe or
Mm-hmm,
something like
mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, no, I don't. All mine is Northern European, literally all of mine. I'm the most white Northern European girl ever. Literally no percent of anything else. It's like Irish, Scottish, English, Welsh. That's it.
I wonder what would pop up in your astrocartography if we were to look at like your ley lines of your
I would
previous
love
life.
to. I tried to do that myself once, and I like couldn't. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm looking at.
I
Yeah.
tried to do it this week, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I just put it away.
Yeah. So
It was a lot of
overwhelming.
lines, a lot of colors,
Yeah.
a lot of symbols, and
I was like, I'm out.
yeah.
To answer your question, Nicole, so it's funny because one of our girlfriends, Ashley, I'll have to introduce you, is actually a ruler of the records.
Ooh,
And
cool.
yeah, she's badass. She's gonna listen to this too. Shout out to our girl. And it's so funny because when I was literally like, and like we identified this too, it was by way of her chart, and it was just like a series of events that had happened over the course of like a week, and we put it together. It was kind of like us feeling mind blown, like kind of after I had my reading with you, where I was just like, WTF, like, is this real? And it is. And so I had identified her higher self, and she was literally sitting at like the top of the records and standing there
Ooh.
with her like advisors. And the way that it looked like to me, you know, the original Beauty and the Beast movie where it's like the cartoon version and it's like the old like library. That's exactly how it looks, the colors and all for me.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Super interesting. Like the town library, like not very like big and grand.
No, the one where she was still,
Or in the
castle, the castle one.
Oh,
Mm-hmm,
okay. I was like, then like when she went into the little town library, I was like, wow,
no,
it's like one little
the other
room.
one. Yeah.
Okay, that's so interesting. Well, what's really interesting about that is with your reading,
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have said this, but I can't remember. But my initial, like when I walked into that initial scene
Mm-hmm.
where I saw a castle in the distance and this woman who had been banished, it felt like that Beauty and the Beast scene to me, where it's like nighttime and you could see the castle and like in the forest, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
it's so interesting how it, I feel like it's like a shape-shifting kind of room too. Of like it shows up in so many different ways to everyone. And so, Nicole, I'm super excited for your experience with the records and for you to detail that
me
as we
too.
go.
Mine was very old, like like old and run down. But you know, whatever. It's fine. Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned how going into somebody's like past lives in the Akashic Records can help maybe shed some light on something that is going on currently. And you gave the example of yours and the healing and how maybe that's kind of blocking you currently. So what would going into somebody's like present Akashic Records do for them? Like, how would that be helpful for them in the moment? Would it be similar to understanding a past life and what's getting in the way, or does it look different when you're looking at the current day?
It kind of just depends on what they want to show me. So sometimes they will show me a past life, and there usually seems to be some sort of relevant information there to whatever the person is currently struggling with or wondering about. Another thing I've had happen quite a bit is like, so let's say somebody asks about like relationships or something, like, oh, I want to like be in a relationship, or I want to be in a job, this job or this job, you know, which one? A lot of times I'll go in and I'll ask for a certain book. Like, can I see Nicole's book of relationships? Can I see Nicole's book of
Girl, you do
like,
not want that one.
well, it's not like it's not like a timeline. Usually, it's not like
you don't
here's
want
her
single
whole
Nicole's book of relationships.
No, single
maybe
Nicole in her 20s.
Maybe I do.
Nicole.
I'm gonna check out that DVD. I'll take that later. No, but like normally it's I'm trying to think of a good example of somebody like I have done this for. Normally it's not, it's more just like information about their soul's strengths and weaknesses or something that comes through in the book. Like, these are the things you should be looking for, or you might energetically be aligned with. These are the things you're energetically not aligned with, or that you might need to like kind of, you know, back away from. That's normally the kind of information that I get. It's not like, here's a history of somebody's relationships and here's the one they should pick. It's always more, like I said, it's always more metaphorical and like it feels more like squishy than just like a concrete type of thing.
I love how you say you read in metaphors, because I really struggle with that. So this morning I had a practice circle, and I have a friend in Soul Reading Method, and she reads so beautifully and metaphorically, and I love it. And she was, dropping things in the chat, and people were like, wow, like look at you dropping all these things. So I had texted her after and I said, I just love the way you interpret messages. Teach me your ways. And so she's going to, because I'm very literal. I'm very like, nope, this is what it shows. This is what it means. And I want to get away from that because Gabby has told me how that's a very masculine trait. And I'm trying to be more creative and feminine and flowy.
But I also think there's some clients that might just gravitate towards you because it's the directness and it's like making sense of what they're going through, and they're going to need that too. So maybe like a blend of the two, because that's actually like a skill set for you. And I feel like it, like the literal, expression that you're describing right now, it's going to really hit with the people that haven't had their awakening, that are still not believing, and they're going to be able to translate and digest it and be like, how would she have known, because it is so matter of fact and to the point and direct.
Yeah. So. Well, we'll see. I mean, yeah, those are definitely the clients in my practice that I tend to jive well with, and that I work well with, when I can be very like blunt and, call them on their bullshit. And vice versa, right? Even for me to just be kind of called on my bullshit in a very direct way, like don't beat around the bush. So
yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. So what about if you're going into somebody's Akashic Records for their future?
So I personally don't feel as strong in the future telling. And I don't know if it's because to be honest, I feel a little like fearful of it. It feels like, I don't know, I don't want to tell somebody like this is your future. And then like the ego side of me is like, I don't want to be wrong, which is just like pure ego, perfectionism coming through. But then the other side of me is like, it feels more like, I don't want to like tell somebody something and have them make like some big life choice out of what I told them. And, this just feels like a lot of pressure for me. So I think I don't know if it's just not that I don't have natural gifts there as much as I'm just like not leaning into it. I still have some work to do there. But I personally feel like our lives are just possibility waiting to unfold also. And when I think about it that way, I'm a little more apt to lean into asking questions about the future, because I feel like, things are always shifting. Like every choice we make like creates a new reality and creates new opportunities and possibilities. So I think what I do get a sense of in somebody's records though is like I have a specific feeling and I can't describe it, but I can tell when I feel like alignment for somebody and when I don't. So if somebody were to ask me a specific question, like I can feel like, does that feel aligned with like their energy that I'm in, with their records that I'm in, or does it not? And even if it doesn't, I don't even necessarily think that means like it's never for you. I think it just means like, I'm just sensing this feels more in flow for you right now. This feels less in flow, and like take that as you will and do with it what you will. But I don't know. Future telling is like tricky for me. It's just tricky for me. Part of me wants there to be like somebody to tell me like, here's what's going to happen to you next month. And then part of me wants it to always be like in flux, like for there to always be, unseen possibilities that can come into play. I don't know. It's so interesting. Like time and future and past is so fascinating to me. It's just endlessly fascinating.
And I think the hard part is too is, if somebody is waiting for the future and whatever somebody's told them, they're probably going to be missing out on what's going on in the present, because they're so focused on, but this is supposed to be coming, right? Okay, yes, but like let's also make sure that we stay in the moment and be grateful for what we have currently, because things are going to be different in the future, whatever that looks like, good or bad, right? So being very present. Like I saw something and it said, your current life is everything you wished for 5 years ago. Right.
So
and so if you had only been focused on that, like what would you have missed out on in those 5 years, right? The highs, the lows, the growing, the lessons, just all of those things. So
yeah. I'm a sacral generator for human design. I don't
Me
know if you
too.
all know. You are? I didn't
Oh,
know
I'm a
that.
sacral Manny Petty Manny
Jed.
Manny Jenny.
I need a
No,
sacral mani pedi right now. Like, let's just be
let's
honest.
go
I don't even
everybody.
know.
Spa day. Manny
um,
Jenny.
Manifesting generator.
Manifest.
yeah. Yeah. So we're all in a similar, like that's a similar type. And ever since I've really realized what that means, like I've always felt that feeling in my gut that they talk about, and I have denied it so many times to my own demise and other people's demise. And deep resentment has come from that. But that feeling of like, I know this next choice feels good. That's kind of more how I like lean into future telling for somebody when I'm reading them. Like I can kind of feel like, that direction feels good. That direction feels maybe not as good. I don't know. It's something about that feels off. Like that's more how I lean into it.
Is that what it means to be a Manny Jenny? Like that you just know and you just like the gut? No, okay.
The
That's what I don't know
sacral,
about.
yeah, the sacral. I don't know, Gabby. What's it called? The sacral center, like the.
I want to say it's the authority.
There it is,
authority.
the authority. Yeah, your authority center is where you go for like choice decision making.
And we're referring to human design, which is like a whole other system.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole nother episode that we'll get to at some point.
Yeah. But it's literally just like the gut feeling of just like, and following your gut because your gut's always right. And yeah, it typically refers to like different chakra centers.
I feel like I get that though. Like I get just gut feelings, right? Like that's why I think I'm claircognizant, because there's just things that I just know and I don't know how I know them, but I just kind of like feel it and it's never made sense. But it's usually
that's clear. Where claircognizance is the knowing and clairsentience is the feeling.
Oh. Well, I'm both, because I feel like it's like like I would feel it and then like I would know it and I would feel it and it would just like I feel like they kind of go hand in hand for me at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Okay.
Human design is our next thing, guys.
Yeah.
I like human design. It's helpful.
It's something that I think I want to dive into. I think it'd be really cool because Gabby is very big and, she's the astrologer and that's her piece. So I thought it'd be kind of cool for me to dig into the human design and seeing how we could combine. But if she's going to do it too, then I don't need to do it.
Well, okay. So do you know what I wanted to point out? And I think this is a really great transition is that a lot of therapists lean towards human design, and you guys are both basically Nicole, you're a therapist, and Ashley, you're in grad school for that work. So do you mind telling us what your future plans are with respect to that work? And then
that is a great question.
Going.
Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't know, honestly. I know I've been drawn to this work. That is a sacral yes for me. This was a sacral yes for me. But it was also like I've always kind of been leaning to this work. I really don't know where it's taking me though. Like people are always like, what do you want to do with it? And I'm like, I don't know yet if there's a specific. I could see myself actually working with like a college age population. That comes up for me a lot, like young adults, but like in maybe a college counseling center or something, but I don't know. And I do know that all of this will like intersect with whatever I do, all the spiritual stuff, but I'm not sure yet. It's a good question.
And Ashley, I don't think you have to have it figured out. And I'm sure you know this, but it's just like with anything. Think back, Gabby, even when you were in high school or starting college, where there's so much pressure to have it figured out. And me, I still don't even know what I want to keep doing, because I feel like we're constantly changing. So me, when I started grad school, however many years ago, it was like my late 20s. Yeah. I was in my late 20s. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I just knew that I wanted to do it. And since then it's shifted, right? I thought, oh, maybe I'll work with kids. And then, well, I don't really want to work with kids. And I'll work with adults. And then I found that I really liked the population that I'm with now, which I didn't think I was going to enjoy. And so it's going to change. And the good thing, well, I don't know what license are you trying to get?
Clinical mental health. Just
is that like a LPC?
LPC.
LPC. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know what the requirements are for that, but for my license, we needed to have X amount of hours with kids and X amount of hours, right? You had to have a little bit of experience with everybody.
Are you an MFT?
I'm an
Marriage and
MFT.
Family Therapy?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Marriage and Family Therapist. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to, kind of jump into everything, but you don't have to have it figured out. And it's going to change because you're going to change.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
yeah. No.
I don't think I figured out what I wanted to do until my Saturn return.
But not even that, but how much has it changed, and how much is it still going to change in 5 years, in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we have to stay stuck. And the problem that I see, and Ashley, one of the things that I noticed when I was in grad school, and you'll probably see it too, is they all have a lot of jobs. Like the professors, they all have so many jobs. They teach, and then they do their private practice, and then they have something else on the side. And I was like, why? Like, I'm trying to go to grad school so I can just have one job. I don't want to work 3 jobs forever. But now I get it, because you get so burnt out. So it was almost like, okay, I'm going to do my private practice to keep me, learning and to keep me in touch. And then I'm going to teach because I can help these newcomers coming in. But then I'm going to do something completely different. One professor or supervisor, he was like a theater major, and he did stuff with like theater and production, because that was like, I think, what kept him sane. And so you'll probably find that you need to have something outside of this. So maybe for you, that'll be Akashic Ashley.
I was going to say, maybe a spiritual Akashic Ashley on the side.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think so. Okay, so you want to finish grad school and just kind of
Yeah, I have got two tiny kids, so right now I'm like, let's just get through the toddler years, get through grad school, and then I think, once they're in kindergarten, they're only a year apart, so they'll go to kindergarten each a year apart.
To back.
Yeah, 18 months apart.
God bless you.
Thank you. It's wonderful and very hard. But yeah, once they're both in kindergarten, I feel like the world just kind of like opens back up in terms of time for me. So we'll see down the road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else you got, Cabs?
No, I love all the things that are coming your way.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you did this. Thank you for this.
I know. This is fun. This has been great. Like, this is such a fun outlet for me. So I appreciate it.
We had our dad on recently, and he was not into it at first. He was like, I told him how excited I was, and he said, I'm not excited. And then,
oh my gosh.
And then afterwards, he was like, oh, this was kind of neat. That was kind of fun.
Oh, he liked it.
He did.
Yeah, I need to listen to that one, because he sounds like such an interesting person. I loved your stories from like both of your stories from like your childhood, and your ghost story freaked me out, Nicole.
Girl, it freaks me out still. And that happened, 20, how old am I? Almost 30 years ago, and it still freaks me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Dad'll have some interesting stories. So that'll be, you'll hear it. You'll hear it. By the time this comes out, you'll have heard it. So
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is there anything you want to leave us with, Ashley? Do you want people to find you? Do you not want people to find you? Do you want to be left alone? Like,
yeah.
What
so
does
I think
want?
I have decided to leave one slot open a week for recorded readings.
Oh, yeah, I love
just
that.
one. So if the
Good.
universe wants to bring me people this summer, then the universe will bring me the right person.
And how are they going to find you?
Yes. So I have a Calendly link. I don't know if you guys can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, put it in the notes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's kind of a like long URL to read. But yeah, I'll give you a link for the show notes, and I'm just going to do one slot a week during the summer for recorded readings. So you will get a reading within a week of when you sign up via email recording.
Okay. I love that. I think that's really good. We talked about it.
Yeah, that was good discussion. That was good. Yeah, I was like, I can leave one a week open. I can do that.
And again,
and if nobody signs up, then great. Like, that's the universe being like, no worries,
But I think it's just going to be good for your own like sanity and your own mental health, because it'll keep you connected to something that you enjoy versus, right? Like, as moms, we get so stuck in the day-to-day and the bedtimes and the dinner and just, the shit show of it all. And so I think just to have a little bit of...
It's a lot.
I don't know how you do it. I have one, and he's pretty self-sufficient. So God bless you. And you're in school right now. That's a lot.
Yeah. Some days it feels like a lot. Other days I'm like, okay, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Depends on the day. Yeah.
All right. Well,
cool.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you for having me.
for the
I'm excited to read you,
information.
Nicole. It's going to be fun.
I know. I like all these questions were coming up and I was like, well, like she can't answer all of these. So I think we'll have to maybe debrief before and come up with the questions so that way make the most use of your time.
For sure. But whatever you're ready to hear will come.
Oh, bring it all to me. I think I'm ready to hear it all. Okay, so yeah, we'll put your link in our show notes. And any social or just the link for the Calendly?
Just the Calendly, because I don't even use I don't do my social very much.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll just have that. Okay, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you can do so at our email
at thespiritualsisterspodcast@gmail.com.
You can, oh my God, there's so many to remember. You can follow us on Instagram
at The Spiritual Sisters Podcast.
You can follow Gabrielle on Instagram
at Agua Astrology.
You can follow me on Instagram
at Mom Wifey Therapist.
You can book a reading with Gabrielle
at www.aguaastrology.com.
And we hope you'll join us next time for, I don't know what it's going to be, but we hope that you will join us. Bye.